So actually, that weird sound you just heard was the was the in-game client actually triggering for the spectate from Sneak's perspective.
No, look at that. After about 30 minutes of trying, the in-game client has pulled through.
And so now we're actually going to be able to see the Lulu, Shen, Jarvan deck's perspective against FreshLobster's Mono Aurelion Sol. No Shyvana, no Zoe, not even Garen or something to hold down the mid game. It's just going all in on the Aurelion Sol here.
Clad in shining sunlight.
Crazy. I'm gonna have to pull this deck list up and see what's going on inside of that crazy mind of FreshLobsters.
So Mono Aurelion Sol tells us at the very least it's probably, you know, Eclipse Dragon Aurelion Sol for the top end. Maybe the rest of the deck is just some sort of mono Targon Invoke monstrosity.
No closer.
So I have it here. Can you also re-show that stream for me though, Scarzig?
Oh yeah, yeah. My
Inside
goodness, you don't.
client.
Yeah, that's right. You
You're
don't.
good.
I have to screen share that too. Hang on a second. My bad.
This is a very interesting deck that I just pulled up. We have 2 Aurelion Sol, and that's it. It's the only 2 champions. And there's actually a lot of Demacia in this deck. We have 3 Radiant Guardians, Blinding Assault, Sharp Sight, Single Combat, and Concerted Strike. And then there's only there's a little bit of Invoke with the Fangs and the Priestess and Spacey Sketcher. But like you said, it's the Eclipse Dragon up top, followed by Aurelion Sol. And it's just 3 Star Shaping as well. It's just make it to the end game with plenty of healing from Radiant Guardian, the Fangs, and Star Shaping itself, and just kind of try to pummel through damage with a massive Invoke. So you might be seeing some huge Invokes come down this game.
This, I think, is going to be perhaps a little bit tougher for FreshLobster, ironically. An Invoke deck, again, the value-based list, we touched on it a bit earlier. You might just get bullied by a key rally here going into the mid-game. Screeching Dragon alongside Shen is one of the most powerful combinations you can do for controlling the board. And you can go for the guaranteed kill on the Priestess here.
Yeah, still get a little bit of damage through to the Nexus at the same time.
I suppose it doesn't really matter which one. They both have 2 attack.
Yeah, unless we would see a Hush come down or something along those lines. But yeah, I mean, this
Maybe,
could technically
yeah, maybe
kill
that's
him,
why. Maybe just anticipating a Hush, or not wanting the Solari Priestess to clear the Fleet Feather Tracker with the single combat, right?
Yeah, on the side, yep. On the side of the attack, this will protect it from that. So it's a minor decision for sure, but this attention to detail proves why these guys are in the top 8.
And again, just seeing the Fiora Lulu Shen, it's a concept that should work on paper because Fiora Shen was just so successful in general. I'm curious to know, you know, how big of a if Sneak is going to be focusing on a mid-game rally game plan, or doesn't mind going to the late game to rely on the Jarvan, or is Brightsteel formation in this variant?
Yeah, I can tell you. I can tell you in a second here. In fact, there is one Brightsteel formation.
Okay, so FreshLobster got the Warrior off of Solari Priestess, and that's going to do a fantastic job of holding down this mid-game. Because Shen has Barrier, we can go for the single combat to potentially even this out and have the Warrior go down in exchange for just 1 unit.
Looks like he's going to pass on that opportunity. Probably get the established board state with the Dragon and then try to do... Oh, he actually also has a Fleet Feather. So he could go for even more board state development here for, you know, a 3 challenger board that can really swing through a decent amount of damage.
Yeah, the heavy focus on challenger units, I think, just is probably the direction this list really should evolve into. The power of Shen in the barrier, this accentuates Shen a lot more. And also Lulu, alongside Fleet Feather Tracker, was one of the classic ways this deck, you know, used to bully. Back when Lulu first came out and there was that Lulu Shen, Fleet Feather Tracker, War Chef's, like, tempo deck.
Yeah.
And I think that a little bit of that DNA being added to the like mid-game control package.
We have a Fangs being dropped, so that you're seeing a decent amount of Invoke, and this is the 3 or less package from the Invoke, and these Equinoxes are very, very valuable just to shut off challenge if he wants to save his units.
Yeah, even developing the Screeching Dragon here and says, so did you get Crescent Strike?
Yep.
And that's the secret. Your opponent gets a really strong tool off of the Fangs or off of super cool Star Chart or whatever other source, and just force them to use it immediately. The less mana that FreshLobster can bank, the harder it's going to be to respond to the board state. And Sneak now thinking, got the charger. Okay, so FreshLobster once again opting for just a small additional blocker on top of everything else. Warrior going down. The Fangs going down. The charger going down.
Yeah, this trade going through would be pretty big. Like you said, we do have Sharp Sight, Single Combat, Hush from FreshLobster still available at 4 mana that he's sitting on. But if this trade just goes through here, pretty solid trade. Shen lives, the dragon lives, and so does your 2-drop. So that's a lot of board presence there.
The trouble, however, is that you're clearing your opponent's board, you're putting yourself in a dominant position, but FreshLobster's blocking with mostly cards that he invoked. And you can see that he's slowly building on some pretty strong card advantage perhaps in hand, even rescuing the warrior here. I wonder if Sneak is going to opt for maybe using single combat, maybe cashing in the Brightsteel Protector or one of the Fleet Feather Trackers to even out this damage a little bit.
He could let this strike go through first, and then if he still wants to go that route, do the single combat with the 3/2, the Brightsteel Protector, after the fact, so he gets the Nexus damage. But if he wants to cash it in with a Fleet Feather, yeah, he needs to do that here. And like you said, the card advantage here is definitely substantial. Lobster has played mostly invoked cards, and you can see this hand of Sneaks is not pretty, and Shen Viewer can do that to you. They don't have a ton of draw options.
Yeah, so Sneak just says, fine, keep the warrior. I've got a second Shen in hand if it does go down, or maybe I'll use Stand United to punish the warrior from challenging. FreshLobster might not even go for a combat. Just pass, try to just develop blockers here, maybe try to bank some spell mana, playing more towards a late game survival win condition.
Yeah. Which, when your opponent's hand is slacking, you can kind of comfortably fill into that spot. If you know your opponent's down to 2-3 cards, you got to expect it is a same archetype as Fuhrer Shen, so they run a solid amount of spells. So you are expecting, okay, they have some combat tricks, but if that means, if they have only combat tricks, that means they don't have too many units I have to worry about.
And FreshLobster, especially being such a seasoned tournament player, has had plenty of experience playing against Fuhrer Shen. So when you're kind of playing against the new variant, some of that matchup experience, of course, is going to still carry over. And once you get into the later stages of the game, you can see FreshLobster is at I'd say a comfortable life total against the mid-game onslaught you'd normally be fearing from this position.
He can threaten Shen here without really committing anything. This is a 5/1 unit that he's ready to throw away, and this really forces an answer from Sneak.
Yeah, so there's the Stand United to protect the Shen, put the Screeching Dragon in harm's way instead, reserve 2 units, level up the Shen without maybe a Hush here. This is going to be pretty big.
Yeah, leveled Shen can be pretty substantial to up his damage output, because right now his board does not have a whole lot of damage output, and we can see with his hand also there's not a whole lot more damage coming down. And the later this goes, the closer to victory FreshLobster is going to get. again, like we said, this deck list is only running one Bright Steel formation. That is really the big game ender for this list outside of Cythria, which we're already past turn 6. So
Mm-hmm.
the later it gets, Aurelion Soul starts getting down, Invoke Celestial start getting down, and things can get ugly quick.
The notable weakness of decks like this is because they don't have any burn. So you have to beat your opponent through combat. And so Concerted Strike being put down in response to this, just to pop the barrier to guarantee the Screeching Dragon goes down. Sneak does still, of course, have Deny for this.
I guess single combat also works around Deny?
Yeah, you can go for single combat as well. That way the combat just goes through while the Screeching Dragon still has barrier.
A Hush could cause the Screeching Dragon to die.
Yeah, Hush here to cleanse the barrier, and then it would just trade 1-for-1 anyway, which is kind of what you wanted. And Shen, without any strong allies to support, and with only a couple cards in hand, is still going to be pretty easy to defend against. Notably, the Invoke that was gotten off of the Fangs was the Charger, so Sneak is not worrying about Equinox to stop Bright Steel formation. So FreshLobster perhaps has the answer and is just considering whether or not it's worth it. Is just going to try to take the line here to punish Sneak for not having a lot of cards in hand.
Yeah, and that definitely could work. You know, we know he's running plenty of options for healing as well with Star Shaping, so he's definitely not looking great. We got to see what this top deck is from Sneak.
River Shaper, very strong.
Water changes but never breaks.
Yeah, that is one of the cards that can get more cards in this archetype, so not a bad draw at all for turn 8.
You have the units in play, you have the leveled up Shen, and now you need the combat tricks to back them up. And this is what River Shaper is going to provide. FreshLobster, even developing another sizable unit. Maybe that just gets pulled to the side with Screeching Dragon. There's a world, I'm wondering if you can pull the 2-1 with Screeching Dragon, give the barrier to River Shaper to guarantee that it survives, and try to get as many spells as possible. But from a position like this, you know, FreshLobster, in these really heavy Targon decks, you can play one big thing most of the time. Another Fangs or something is probably your best bet.
Yeah, I don't think the game's going to be ending this turn pretty much no matter what with what he can do. There's not enough damage he's going to be able to put out here, even with the Caretaker gaining a little bit of attack when it gets barrier. And Shen also, whoever Shen barriers will also gain additional attack.
Yes.
So the Spacey Sketcher makes sense. It's just a clean 1-1 chump blocker for something.
Mm-hmm. Gets rid of the Dusk Petal Dust. River Shaper could pull a rally.
That is true. That's a very important card that he could pull. And also, there is one Golden Aegis in this list. There's actually two. There's 2 Golden Aegis in this list, which would give an attack buff at the same time, now that Shen is leveled. So he decides to pull the Duskbringer to the side, so now he can buff the Brightsteel Protector and have the Caretaker and the River Shaper both at 2 health. Only a Chump Blocker is a 1-1 without combat tricks, so that kind of leaves them both being able to stay alive unless something else comes down.
Yeah, I do like this. The River Shaper is basically safe, because with the barrier, the buff goes onto the Brightsteel Protector, and then Greenglade Caretaker also gets a buff. So Lethal's being threatened further up the combat stack. River Shaper can't be blocked, or else Lobster will die. There is potential for a Star Shaping from this position. He's probably worrying that this final card could be Riposte or some other additional buff on top of this. We've already seen Stand United. Sharpsight is going to attempt to trade up into the Screeching Dragon.
Yeah, not much Sneak can do about that, so he's going to accept that, put his opponent down to 3 health, and draw a Sharpsight right back. So it's not a rally, which would have been very clutch at this point.
But just the right amount of unit pressure. Things were looking pretty sketchy there. Once, you know, we got the block from the Screeching Dragon onto the Warrior, etc. and that got cashed in. But the River Shaper now, with the potential to refuel, is going to put Sneak in a much better position. Here's Dusk Petal Dust, probably onto Eclipse Dragon. There it is.
Yeah, so threatens the ability for Aurelion Sol to come down next turn now at turn 9. Oh no, I'm sorry. He used the Nightfall edition of that, so he's actually just got even more value in hand. Proven right here, finishes off the 1 mana he had left with the Charger, and now he has a Dragon in hand. It makes 1 Celestial, 1 Dragon, so we have an additional Dragon in hand of some kind.
Yeah, something like a Screeching Dragon I think would be fantastic here. Something that allows you to contest the board, something that is not too expensive.
Yeah. More combat tricks for Sneak.
A lot of units were drawn so far over the course of the game, so most of the draws, I think, from the top of the deck from this point onward will most likely be spells. And with the River Shaper working in tandem with that, every single time that it manages to strike increases the chance of getting that Golden Aegis for the rally. And look at this, White Flame Protector was the dragon that was gotten, and a Charger. Where are these invokes coming from? They're insane. One from Spacey Sketcher, and then these from the Eclipse Dragon. Unit parity is safety in a matchup like this.
Yeah, Lobster decides not to attack there, says, okay, you know, he's holding all of his mana. We know he has combat tricks coming, so let's just pass. Let's get to the next round. I have a solid board established. I can chump block. There's no overwhelm damage, anything I have to worry about along those lines, so let's put it back into Sneak's field and make him apply the pressure.
That ending the round last time is very important too, because that shows FreshLobster that the three cards in Sneak's hand are spells, and he just happened to draw another unit. So you know those last 3 spells are combat tricks, and as long as FreshLobster has a unit in play, another unit to play to maintain the unit parity, he can survive another round.
Absolutely. We do have an update quickly. At the bottom of the bracket, we have Spakes versus Martin Carton. Martin Carton pulls through a 2-0 victory. He's moving into the top 4. And on top of that, Broken Ball versus Castman. Those 2 names might sound familiar as well. Broken Ball takes a 2-1 victory against Castman. So we'll have Martin Carton versus Broken Ball as one of the top 4 matches.
Ooh, excellent. Congratulations to those players for advancing through the bracket. And maybe congratulations to FreshLobster for having another unit to play. Goes for the Aurelion Sol. I definitely understand the hesitation there. An enormous commitment just to get a big blocker down.
Sneak has to remove some units here, or Aurelion Sol will level, so we'll have to see some sort of attack, and possibly, you know, taking some not super valuable trades depending on what he attacks with. But he cannot let Aurelion Sol level at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Sweep them away.
He's just too massive once he levels.
Yeah, so buffs the Screeching Dragon, pulls Aurelion Sol, in order to, you know, keep this huge body from breaking down Shen. The Eclipse Dragon now, ooh, boosts the attack even further. That's true. So uses the Spirit's Refuge. The attack buff is going to stack now in order to threaten the Aurelion Sol. Doesn't mind the Shen going down to this Eclipse Dragon.
Saying maybe I'll just send these 2.
Yeah, very interesting decision here. Saying, as long as Aurelion Sol goes down, I don't have to worry about it leveling. Maybe saving Sharp Sight here for Shen to survive this combat too.
Yeah, so when I said he's going to have to remove some units in order to Aurelion Sol to not level, Sneak just said, actually, I'll just try to remove Aurelion Sol. Wow.
Crushed
+1/+1
egg. Normally it's included in lists like this for the card draw. If you run Eclipse Dragon and Aurelion Sol as your only dragons, it allows you to tutor for that combination so you can get it on curve more consistently. But here, using the other half of the card, a +1/+1 for dragons means that even with Sharp Sight on Shen, it won't survive against the Eclipse Dragon. Has to dump that resource into clearing the Sol.
Even though he removes Aurelion Sol, FreshLobster still is sitting on 3 cards before this turn even started.
Yeah, getting Shen out of the way means that you don't have to worry about any Stand United shenanigans, no more potential attack buffs coming through with the barriers, and you still have unit parity. Sneak did not opt for attacking with the River Shaper, so did not draw a card there. Didn't want to give value towards the White Flame Protector. And now the Destroyer was gotten off of Aurelion Sol. This attack token is going to be massive.
And it's already at 11 attack. He's played that many Chargers so far this game. And this is going to be death by horns. Very possible between the Chargers and this Rhinoceros coming down.
If you use the Screeching Dragon to block the Destroyer to take as little damage as possible there, 6 is still coming through. Only small units to block the Charger as well, so that's going to be 10 damage if my calculations are correct, but you're still sacrificing your whole board.
Yeah, exactly. And the combat tricks here of deny and single combat don't really help you do anything outside of that. But he decides to pass. And another deny is not a whole lot.
FreshLobster passing.
Who'd have thought? Name a better duo.
Honestly, maybe it's true. If you attack with the Destroyer, the Greenglade Caretaker trades up into it in exchange for Sneak taking a little bit more damage. FreshLobster is just going to go for pure survival and maybe wants to set up an OTK rather than a back-breaking swing.
And this very well could be the safest play possible. I mean, he is playing a deck that wants to get later and later into the game. He already sees his opponent starting to dwindle with his resources. So if he just keeps the same theme up, having enough chump blockers to survive, even though he's only at 3 Nexus health, he can just keep the pressure going.
And who knows if FreshLobster's just been sitting on a couple Star Shapings this whole time and hasn't cast them because a lethal hasn't been truly presented yet.
Yeah, exactly. And he's seeing that, now he's Star Shaping on the Eclipse Dragon. Even he says, oh, my 3 health Nexus, that doesn't matter. I have enough chump blockers now, so let's just keep my blockers alive. And he's just exerting complete board dominance against Shen, Lulu, and Jarvan. So that should be putting him into a spot that's extremely advantageous.
Yeah, again, the denies in this matchup means that FreshLobster is going to be less likely to take something like Supernova or Cosmic Inspiration, of course. So, but getting another Destroyer or the Great Beyond or Immortal Fire here is going to, again, increase that capability of FreshLobster maybe just getting a 1-turn kill.
Yeah, exactly. He's already setting up quite a lot of overwhelm damage here with the 11 attack on that. And even the Chargers, both having 4 attack. The highest health unit he has is just the Screech Dragon, 6. Another Charger. Destroyer, I mean.
And this one is even bigger. Each subsequent one you play is just a little bit bigger than the last. And this is the attack that FreshLobster was waiting for. Look at all that overwhelm damage coming through.
Oh. Okay, it's coming back out.
Slightly different order around Spirit's Refuge somehow, I suppose. So that's going to be 31 just in overwhelming damage.
Yeah, that's a lot. And you have to chump the dragon, at least the 9/9.
So is there a Frankenblock here that you can pull off?
Just changing the order just a little bit, worried about, okay, if he wants to actually do something with Spirit's Refuge, like you said, to get healing, where does he want that healing to take place?
Yeah, the highest attack units are also the ones that also have the most HP for the most part to block the Destroyers down the line.
And even if he did have that, if he is sitting on a hush at this point, that does completely shut this down. So let's just see, this is a decent block. You're going for the trade up with the Caretaker, but does that even prevent his Nexus from dropping down to 0?
Oh, yeah, we can actually hover the eye thanks to the in-game client. So looking at the arrangement here, that is still lethal. And so single combat needs to come through here on the Screeching Dragon onto this Destroyer.
Hesitates. That only puts him at 1 health, I believe. He was taking minus 23, so even a Sharp Sight will put him over the edge there, or his own single combat, or his own Concerted Strike. But we do see Sneak is sitting on 2 denies.
Strike, we will reform.
Yeah, the overwhelm damage is just so strong.
Yeah, going for the trade up with the 7-2 is definitely risky, and not putting your Screeching Dragon there to block more of that damage. But I understand because he doesn't really have an out besides this. Even with this, Sneak is in a very, very bad position.
Yeah, if the answer from FreshLobster's side is another concerted strike, we do have deny available.
Does have mana for both of them as well. But then again, he's using his entire hand here to just keep a Screeching Dragon alive.
Yeah, you can't let the Eclipse Dragon kill the Screeching, then you're taking the overwhelm damage from the Charger. The Chargers are so good from this spot, right? Having this extra guaranteed damage against these kind of smaller units from the Shen side is important. And look at this. Another single combat being put on the stack, and Sneak has to deny this as well. So now expending all of the resources, all of the cards in hand, just to survive with 3 HP.
Yeah, the only thing he'll get back is 1 spell draw from the River Shaper, and the only thing he'll have on his board versus 1 Charger, or 1 Destroyer, and 2 Dragons is his own Screeching Dragon, which has no real way to end the game at the moment.
And look at this. It's so ironic. I think almost all of the cards have been like generated. We've got these off of Eclipse Dragon, off of these from this one from Aurelion Sol. The ability to generate these extra resources is so strong, and it's allowed FreshLobster to exist and generate this card advantage going into the later stage of the game, and it's finally paying off.
Yeah, FreshLobster is very, very patient throughout this whole time, and then another Aurelion Sol comes down, so he has been extremely patient with this, just has kept his guard up, made sure his Nexus was okay, didn't rush and say, oh, I'm at 3, I need to start shaping my Nexus right now. There was no need to. There's no ever potential threat to actually fully put lethal through, so was patient, kept his board alive, and now he's reaping some of the benefits.
Concerted strike is the way to go here to take out this big Eclipse Dragon. The Spell Shield on Aurelion Sol and Destroyer means they can't go down.
Or the 11-5, just so Aurelion Sol doesn't level, right?
Mm-hmm. And then top deck a Spirit's Refuge. No, even then, Lulu's just a 4/4 blocker. Maybe you get a Whimsy.
Yeah, drawing in your second Lulu might be the only out here from an open attack. That just doesn't do anything.
Lobster not going for the open attack. Says, you have no cards. I can play as many resources as I want to make this lethal as guaranteed as possible.
Yeah, so even if he did just draw a unit, he knows he has to just deal with 2 units, and that's it, and he can do it. So Sneak playing it out, but this is all but over this turn.
Another Charger to add insult to injury. FreshLobster is the god of the horns this game.
Death by a million horns for sure. So Sneak is out of the tournament at top 8. And FreshLobster moves on over to our top 4 here.